I've got Thomas Klau, who's a senior political analyst at the European Council on Foreign Relations here, just to talk about this. Thomas, Strauss-Kahn's absence, how much of a gaping hole will that leave the talks today?
Well, it's bad news for the talks today, of course, because Strauss-Kahn is one of the people who understands the European dynamics best, and of course his knowledge of the global side of the Eurozone crisis is probably unparalleled. So his absence is bad news, even if it doesn't have an immediate impact on any decision, as far as I know, that was going to be taken today.
So not much of an immediate impact, but longer-term repercussions when you consider that Strauss-Kahn negotiated the IMF's role in the Greek, the Irish, now the Portuguese bailouts. Looking forward, what does that leave the IMF? Because really, without Strauss-Kahn at the helm, this European at the helm, will the IMF remain quite so committed to supporting Europe?
Well, the IMF will have to remain committed to a very strong degree because, after all, the stability of the Eurozone and the cohesion of the Eurozone is a key ingredient in the stability of the global financial and economic system. On the other hand, it's quite possible that under different sort of leadership, the IMF wouldn't have taken quite the role it has taken and wouldn't have adopted quite the same policy stance it has adopted.
But the IMF usually has a European at the head of it, right? No, but that's also under some discussion for change.
It was already under some discussion for change when Strauss-Kahn was nominated, and it was the strength of his candidature and personality which then convinced developing countries that he would be a good choice. Now, this discussion will certainly be reopened again should it come to Dominique Strauss-Kahn leaving the IMF.
So longer term, the IMF's commitment to Europe is certainly something that's not necessarily there, because Dominique Strauss-Kahn also had very strong personal relations with European leaders, which really could have, if he had have gone on to being the president, could really have changed France's role in Europe, right?
If he had been elected French president, if he were to be elected French president, that would certainly put someone in the Élysée who, because of his knowledge of several European languages, for one, he speaks fluent German and English, because of his phenomenal network in Europe, but also now his global perspective, would really have put Paris in a potential leadership role, I think, in the Eurozone, in the EU and beyond.
What way do you think he would have led Europe? Would it have been one of a Europe of more fiscal union? Do you think he'd have gone down that track?
Well, Dominique Strauss-Kahn is well known as one of the most eloquent and passionate advocates of deepening European integration, both on the political and the economic front. And he's been constantly pushing reluctant EU leaders, such as Germany's Angela Merkel, into accepting that a cohesive Eurozone requires much more cohesive fiscal and economic policies.
Just very briefly, you're based in Paris. How do you see, or who do you think is going to become the main runner if Dominique Strauss-Kahn cannot run for the presidency?
Well, if he pulls out of the socialist primary, the main contenders are Martine Aubry and Francois Hollande. I would put my money on Francois Hollande, but that's a very open bet.